An extremely depressing conclusion I've kind of gradually come to over the years is that, just being realistic here, I probably should have just dropped out of seventh grade. Yeah, at the very least, dropped out of 10th or 11th grade once I've come far enough along in education that I could have easily passed a GED without studying on my first try. But honestly, would that GED even matter? I don't know. I don't. I feel like getting into the topic of my thoughts on kind of education, the education system, particularly the public, non-paid, lower education of up through high school, or would that be called secondary education? I don't know. Uh, Getting into all my thoughts about that would be a whole different issue, but it's definitely fair to say that I've used very little of anything I learned in or past high school in any sort of real world setting, which isn't to say that people more successful and accomplished and professional and intelligent than me probably haven't. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of people who go to law school, medicine school, architecture school, engineering school, who study everything from building engines, doing surgery, anesthesiology, anything like that. Law, who do use the things they learn in school, but I don't really. I've mentioned before that I've never had a job that I cared about or felt invested to do well at or improve in, or everything I've ever done has ever been a paycheck, even when it was in a field that I theoretically might have been interested in, like the time I worked at a newspaper for a little while. It's just writing the most meaningless puff piece bullshit about like these local cultural events that I found completely uninteresting on every conceivable level. And it started as an internship. I did get paid eventually for some pieces, but truly racking my brain right now, and I have a decent memory. At least average, maybe even slightly above average, racking my brain. What did I write about? What did I get paid? I cannot remember. It was meaningless. It was as meaningless and uninvested for me as like doing the dishes or taking a shit, which is a vaguely unpleasant task. I just had to kind of mentally zone out and push my way through, and didn't care about it at all. Had no interest in it. Had no passion for it. And anything I've done to make a living since then has just been frankly downhill from that thing I already didn't care about. No job I ever got did my college education play a role in me getting it, except for maybe a couple right after college, but I didn't care about those either. I didn't care about doing the shittiest like technical or assistant jobs on like film sets. But maybe that's like my ego talking. I mean, I guess that having this idea that you're gonna become like a major screenwriter or director at a school or something like that's silly for most people. There are exceptions. If you were to look at every single person I ever knew in college, there are a few exceptions who went on to be fairly successful, but for the most part, I don't want to. Holding a boom mic didn't interest me, and I don't know. But it's just kind of arguably even been downhill from there. So I'm like looking back on life, like, should I have dropped out of seventh grade and just like immediately? There's always the ultimate fantasy of having a crystal ball and knowing to like invest in Bitcoin or Ethereum or Tesla or something like really young. But I was thinking, what if I had just like gotten like a bunch of part-time jobs and I was like 15 years old, right, and just started like investing money in, like, I won't even say like Apple or Microsoft, in the S&P 500 or something like that. Of course, that was back before smartphones and apps like Robinhood or whatever. You'd have had to go about investing more. Just even if I just started saving money, forget investing, forget the stock market. What if when I was 15 or 16, I had just gotten a job working at a gas station convenience store, or another part-time job at McDonald's or Taco Bell or KFC, or been a cashier somewhere, pushed a mop somewhere, stuff like that. And what if I just had like a few of those and just started putting away like $1,000 a month, just every single month, just for, a decade on end. And I don't know. I mean, I'd be further along if I started like practicing things that I care about or had any investment in, like realistic, I'm now more interested in anything else, and have been to some extent since the time I was talking about, since like the year 2000, since the 90s to some extent, and like trying to like write novels. In retrospect, it seems incredibly stupid and short-sighted and like a time waster that I wasn't spending a minimum of like 2 hours a day, 365 days a year doing so from the time I was like 14 years old. Even if everything I had turned out had been unreadable garbage at that point, which it probably would have been because I wasn't particularly clever or intelligent then or now or in my 20s. Never have been, but if I had just been practicing it, since I was then, like, why wasn't I? What was I doing? I was about to say learning algebra. I guess there are concepts from algebra that you apply like in real, like working your finances in real life, doing things. So I'll say I won't denounce algebra. If any other mathematicians listen to this, sure, algebra has a place. Learning everything, obviously learning your four basic math, your rudimentary arithmetic forms of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division is relevant to all real world situations for everyone, as is learning how to do fractions, percentages. Everyone has to do that. Everyone has to use those in their real life. And even like some basic algebra concepts, yeah, you might use those. Beyond that, I kind of like so I guess there was a year in my life where I spent how many years are there and days are there in a school year? 180, right? 30 times 6, is that right? Plus your homework. So I spent 180 hours plus probably an additional 50, 60 hours of homework and studying time learning trigonometry. I look at that like now, like, why? Why did I do that? I've never used trigonometry. I never even used it after that in high school. I never even used it in my calculus classes, which, why did I spend time learning calculus? That's another question. Like, yeah, if I'd put all that time into what, a $10 an hour job at that time, that would have played more of a role in like bettering myself for the future. I guess I won't to the same extent denounce like why did I spend time learning like classic literature or like US or world history or anything like that. But yeah, also the time I spent like in chemistry and physics class, I look back on that as kind of like a joke, like why? But yeah, even the stuff I learned in college, which is a field I picked out for myself, I kind of look at that like didn't really better me, and it didn't push me towards any goals that worked. So like, I don't know. I look back on my particular, I wonder like how I'd feel if I was like 20 years younger, which is horrifying, frankly, to think that 20 years younger would still put me in high school age. Like I'm just hurtling toward the grave, aren't I? Just like ancient, turning 38 years old later this year, which should be in the prime years of a man's kind of productivity, like professional productivity. Like you should have like a thriving career at that point. You should be paying off a house you live in, but I'm not. I'm just kind of like, I mean, I'm not poor per se, but I do have to practice a certain degree of frugality and watch be careful with finances. I'm not even talking about in the big scale thing, like I can go out and buy like a car or go on like a vacation where I'm staying at $200 nights hotels for like 2 weeks without, planning and thinking ahead about it. I'm talking like if I go to the grocery store, I'm like, asking myself with everything, do I really need this? Like I eat a lot of rice, let me put it that way. I will buy a $20 bag of rice, and then that'll be a bulk of my diet for like the weeks or months it takes me to get through that. I eat a lot of pasta, a lot of eggs, a lot of tortillas. Bananas are a good one. You can I eat a banana most every day because you can get so many for so cheap. But yeah, even I watch my spending. I'm well off enough that if I watch my spending, I can not deplete my savings too quickly. But yeah, I'm just kind of like, I look back on everything I did from like age, I don't know, 15 to 25 almost, and I'm like, what did any of that bring me closer to? Like, I don't know. I understand that you don't want to get sort of like buck broken by capitalism where everything has to be towards a goal, but something should be toward a goal. And everything I achieved in that time just seems like so ephemeral. And just like the only gain I got from it was in the moment, like the in the moment of enjoying like food I liked, in the moment of enjoying, you know, playing a video game or watching a movie I liked, in the enjoyment in the moment of having sex, you know. And those things are worthwhile. I mean, that's part of ultimately what having a happy and accomplished life would be, is like enjoying the moment to moment of, you know. But how many memories did I form in that time that were like permanent and worthwhile? Like, I don't know. I look at the end of like high school, like I spent so much time in high school doing marching band. Like, why? I don't know. It doesn't provide me with any interesting stories to tell particularly. Yeah, I mean, the school trips we took, I guess, were kind of interesting. Like, we went to New York City one year, but I spent 4 years in college in New York City, so it's like, who really cares? So I went there one weekend in high school. Yeah, like, why did I spend so much time in marching band? I never played an instrument. I never picked up an instrument one time again after graduating high school. The clarinet. I never really, like... Well, anyway, getting back to the point I was making several minutes ago before I got mentally sidetracked, like, imagine if I was 20 years younger, almost the idea of dropping out of school would be like more, this isn't me, like, you know, this isn't life advice. If anyone's 15 or 16 ever hears this isn't me telling you to drop out of school, but I'm thinking, like, even the levels of education I got that were theoretically useful, like, I'm talking like history, literature, philosophy, like, you could watch lectures on that on YouTube these days, or just studies. You could set aside an hour a day to study those sorts of fields, like on either YouTube or Wikipedia, I guess. I don't know. So just like better yourself mentally. But yeah, I'm imagining like a younger version of myself, not as I existed, but if I was that age now, if I like just dropped out of like, you know, 9th grade or 10th grade, like if I set aside like 4 hours a day to work a job, and I invested half of everything I made into like the S&P 500 into the stock market, like 4 hours a day to work on like personal goals, like for me it would be like writing literature, writing fantasy, like 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day maybe of like a independent, you know, self-disciplined study of like literature, philosophy, history, etc. on like you know, just lectures from YouTube or something like that. That would be a more important use of my time than like learning a teacher conducted version of those fields, while like wasting my time with stuff like calculus and chemistry and marching band, like stuff I never used, stuff I never cared about, stuff I was never interested in, stuff I never used again after high school. And that would be like a more better use of my time. So I just kind of, but even going, you know, let's cast back 20 years, back before YouTube, before Wikipedia, at least slightly before those things, before like easy operation of the stock market from your smartphone. I don't know. Even back in the year 2001, 2002, what was I doing that I ever used? Like, and this isn't me advocating like being stupid or uneducated. Like I said, in my kind of hypothetical version of what I should have done, I mentioned like educating yourself, but I don't know, like, why did I educate myself on stuff I was never going to use? And I guess the answer would be because some people do need to learn calculus and physics and chemistry and trigonometry, people who go on to be doctors or surgeons or engineers or, you know. But I was never going to do any of that, so I don't know. I look back at decades wasted, frankly, years and decades wasted, time spent learning things. Even the subjects I mentioned I had more interest in, I mostly just learned and regurgitated things onto tests. If anything, the time I spent learning the classics, kind of like, the time in my life I read for pleasure the least was probably like high school, just because I mostly kind of resented the books we were supposed to read. I'm like not even kidding or exaggerating when I say like, maybe if I just been allowed to like read like the stupidest genre fiction, I'm not even talking about like Lord of the Rings and like Dune or, you know, stuff like that. I'm talking about what if I just been allowed to read like Dungeons and Dragons novels. I'm not even kidding. Like I at least would have been invested in the reading, and could have found ways to kind of analyze like how even the stupidest and most artistically puerile literature, how they employ kind of like a allegory and character, how they do character arcs and plotting and stuff. And maybe that would have encouraged me to read and write more at that time. But yeah, just kind of even reading the classics, like reading like Tale of Two Cities and stuff like that, kind of like beat me down, sort of like my like joy of reading and literature. That isn't to say that like that stuff doesn't matter. I mean, obviously I wouldn't be interested in getting into the field of literature professionally if I didn't think it matters. I wouldn't have a stack of like books 10 books high like sitting beside me that I plan on plunging through in the coming months if I didn't think it mattered. I do. Just the way it's taught, it was hard for me to get invested in, even when I had teachers that I generally liked and were engaging. Of course, the fact that I was usually incredibly sleep deprived in school didn't help things, but goodness, what other classes did I even take in like school? Band, complete waste of time. Marching band, learning to play mediocre clarinet. Let's not give myself that level of credit. Learning to play shitty clarinet, that was the level I was at. Waste of time. All math beyond algebra was a waste of time. All science beyond just kind of learning the basic concepts was a waste of time. I don't want to say learning history, your social studies stuff was necessarily a waste of time. Like, I had a government and politics class, I want to say the first semester of my senior year, that I do still sometimes think of in terms of kind of understanding some basic concepts. And I do think that was one worthwhile class. The economics class I took the next semester, not so much. What else did the fact that I can't even remember anything else I took, because I know there was other stuff in there, but it was mostly worthless. But then even my college education, mostly stuff I picked and kind of selected myself. I kind of look at it like, did it bring me closer to anything? Not really. Most of the jobs I've worked the last 10 years of my life, I don't think they even glance so much at the education section of my little resume. I don't know. Who fucking cares? Who fucking cares about anything? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there should have been, what might have been useful class to take in high school would be like a financial literacy class, just about how to, well, actually I'm pretty naturally good at saving money, but some people aren't, but doing budgeting, how to do your taxes, maybe even how to invest in the stock market. I never learned any of that in school. I had to teach that myself. Of course, I didn't do very well at it because the year I decided to get into it was a year that everything dipped by 30%, but fortunately I pulled out before I lost too much. But yeah, I'm not even kidding, man. Not even trying to be hyperbolic or exaggerate. Like in the year 2000, if I just dropped out of school, got my GED, just so I can say I have some sort of quote-unquote high school diploma, I just spent like 4 hours a day at doing like a part-time job where I saved the vast majority of what I made because I was living with my parents and have my parents cook my meals at that point, when I was 15 or whatever. If I just dropped out of school then, just said fuck it to learning math and science and whatever gym. Yeah, the gym, obviously. Yeah, our physical education system is obviously doing great with the American obesity rates just spiking every single year. If I just said fuck it to all that and just dropped out of Park Hill Junior High in Richardson, Texas, where I was living growing up, and just gone straight into spending 4 hours a day working a part-time job, 4 hours a day working on like my writing, I cannot come up with, at the very least, like neutral, like I'd be like in the same place, in terms of accomplishment as where I am now. I can't imagine. I think I would just frankly be like way better off and probably doing better, probably be closer to achieving things I care about, probably have more money if I learned how to invest in the stock market at that point, at least until I lost everything in 2008, I guess. But yeah, I'm just thinking about the ending year, most of the years of like education I went through, and I'm just asking like, why? What did I accomplish? How did I better myself? What did I learn that I used? Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's so stupid to say that, reductive and stupid to say like going to college is worth it because you like partied and got laid a few times. Like, Was it really? Like, I'm sure I could have done that as like a person in my young 20s. As much I ever even desired to go to parties, the only reason I would go to parties was to facilitate getting laid as much as possible. I'm sure I could have dipped my fucking prick a few times in my early 20s without having bothered with that. I don't know. I'm just kind of like look back the years of yeah, like what did I learn beyond 7th grade that I ever used? Like I said, I had a government class. I feel like if I had just, yeah, I don't know, like if I had just put my time into like just split my time like maybe 3 ways from like age like 15 and 20 between like educating myself in what ways are available. I know there's the line in Good Will Hunting about I learned everything you learned at Harvard for what, $150 late fees at the public library. Probably I wouldn't have gone to the public library and checked out books, but yeah, these days in particular with like probably tens of thousands of lectures on topics on YouTube, if I just taught myself, literature, history, philosophy that way, maybe basic science, geology at the very least, split my time doing that and working on like writing like every day, just like a bodybuilder works out every day, and like a part-time job between the ages of 15 and 20. There's no way I'd be any worse off, than I am. There's just no way. I just probably, I don't know. Yeah, what was school even worth? What was any of it worth? What was anything I worked on or accomplished worth? And the answer is basically just keeping a roof over my head and food on my plate. But yeah, I don't know. Kind of depressed just thinking about time wasted. I don't even have any great particularly stories to tell. Nothing that stands out in an interesting way. I mean, stuff can be interesting for you at the time, like went to a great party in the year 2007. Great. So did billions of other people. That's not an interesting story. I don't know. What was it all worth? What did it all matter? What did it all get me? It just kind of... It all seems like just this yawning dark void, just a waste. I just look back and time I could have spent doing unremarkable things that were nevertheless more valuable towards building working towards goals and building a future. But yeah, I'm just kind of this is profoundly unhelpful, this kind of like dwelling on the past. I don't think it gets you anywhere. It gets you even less than the wasted time learning calculus I talked about, is time dwelling depressedly on the past. So hopefully, I'm just hoping the reason I'm recording this worthless kind of vlog / podcast is just gonna dump it all out here now, and then hopefully excise that demon and not have to dwell on it or be tormented by it anymore. Hopefully this can be it. It's time to leave the past in the past. Lots of people have. I certainly didn't grow up homeless, never got addicted to drugs or alcohol, or was starving, or had suffered. I had no medical maladies, so I had it way better than lots of other people out there do. So I should be grateful for everything I had, and let go of my regret, leave the past in the past, and move forward toward the future. And I wish you well in the same way, dear listeners, and I'll talk to you all soon.